right, top 5 Big 12 spring football questions. We've done all the other conferences. We haven't done the one that we're closest to here, right across the river.
Yeah, well, we've gone coast to coast with a lot of college football, but yeah, this is still kind of how we all kick this thing off.
Yeah,
all right.
So might as well do that. Number 5, how will the wholesale changes affect Oklahoma? Still probably be a pretty good team, but the last coaching transition happened in the spring. There was no, the only thing was oh my God, Bob Stoops is retiring, but Lincoln Riley took over and they hit the ground running. How will this, with the quarterback leaving and how big this was, how will Oklahoma react to this? Because it's been a long time since they've had this much drama in Norman.
You don't realize the number of Oklahoma fans who feel like Riley leaving was a blessing and that he had lost his touch. And I've seen some insanity from Oklahoma fans this offseason. Some of them have just lost their damn minds, quite frankly, over just all of the changes. And I guess when you just got kind of used to something and you didn't have a coaching search, you had an easy transition, that all of a sudden having to actually have a coaching search and somebody actually just straight up leaving you is kind of hard to swallow. But and that's not the whole fan base, but I've seen a number of, Riley's offense was, this and that. Like, we got manhandled by Baylor last year and almost lost this game, and he really wasn't that good. And I know a lot of it's just trying to come to grips with the fact that he left you for USC. I mean, that's really what it is. It's not that he wasn't that good of a coach. It's just that you're mad that he left for someone else, and you're trying to justify why it wasn't that big of a deal. I think, the hire of Brent Venables might not make it that big of a deal. I mean, they're going to take a step back offensively, just in terms of how prolific Riley was, but maybe not so much because of Jeff Lebby and what he's able to do and the familiarity there with Dylan Gabriel. But they also lose a lot of talent, so it's going to be very interesting. I don't know that anybody really knows where to peg them quite yet. Some people feel like they'll be right there squarely in the mix like they always have been, and then some people seem to think that they'll be more of an 8-win type of team, which would be a huge departure from what they've become accustomed to in recent years. So, yeah, a lot of questions, a lot of change. Kind of actually have to let the spring settle in and actually see who's on the roster now and because there's been so much turnover, but it's still Oklahoma. They'll still be a good, formidable team, but to what extent, I really don't know. I don't know.
It's a transition. There is a change. They did lose some people early. They lost their quarterback, but I think for the most part, considering how it went down, that they recovered pretty well.
Yeah, they did.
They really did. And some of the players on that team did a great job of keeping that thing together.
Well, yeah, and look, they could have lost a lot more guys than they did.
It could have been a disaster.
You lose Lincoln Riley and you get Jeff Lebby, and I'm not saying that they're equal, but they're pretty close. I mean, Jeff Lebby is one of the most, respected offensive minds that's out there right now. So, I wouldn't expect a ton of drop-off as far as the scoring department goes. And, again, that familiarity with Gabriel should really, be a good thing. He's got to stay healthy, of course, but yeah, they'll still be good, but just to what extent, I'm very curious.
Yeah. Number 4, how much better can Texas be across the board? Not much. How better will they be? We don't know. I don't want to get into will, but can this team be better? Look, they've got skill position players that are really good. We heard earlier today, if Quinn Ewers was still at Ohio State, there would not be a quarterback competition. It's not like he was going to push C.J. Stroud. So let's set reasonable expectations for what the Longhorns could be, and I think everybody expects them to be better, but how much better can they be? Not just on offense, but on defense, because they were terrible on defense for large stretches of last year. So how much better can they be across the board? Not just, Quinn Ewers changes things, because we don't know that yet. It's not fair to Quinn Ewers to put it on him and say, all right, it's all on you, Quinn.
They have all the bells and whistles. They've always seemed to have the bells and whistles. They have that offensive line and that huge class that came in with one or two that might be able to play right away. But do they have the meat and potatoes on each offense or defensive line? If they do, they've got all the other things you probably need.
I feel like they do on the D-line. I don't know about the O-line yet. I think that's still a question mark no matter how many, highly heralded freshmen you bring in. That's still an adjustment period. So that is a question, but they're loaded for bear at the skill spots with Bijan and Ewers. And then, obviously the pickup just yesterday, you add Nayor, and now you've got, and his name escapes me. Who?
The kid from Alabama?
Yeah. Okay, is that his name? Okay, yeah, from Alabama. And, of course, you've got Jordan Whittington who's still hanging around, and you've got Xavier Worthy. I mean, they've got tons and tons of weapons. So yeah, for me, it's O-line and defense, just kind of overall. Pete Kwiatkowski, man, don't say a bad word about him before last season. Fans will tell you what a moron you are, but hey, how'd that work out for you? So great, huh? But, I think he's a guy who's got to be, kind of on a little bit of a hot seat, especially when Gary Patterson's now there, just looming in the shadows. So, Patterson being there, you might forget about it because he's not the DC, but he obviously he knows a thing or two, and so that's going to help as well.
Could be so fast though.
He could be.
I mean, that's the thing about it. Like, he's in a position where all he'd have to do is be like, "Hey, Sark, I'm in the bullpen," and then you can take a coach and put him on the field. You have to remove one, but I mean, he could be the defensive coordinator so fast if it went that way.
It's a really good addition. It really is. It's weird. I know that TCU fans is kind of greasy, but if he's gone, he gets to go work somewhere else. He can only help unless it becomes something where there's a power struggle.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I don't think there will be.
But adding him as an analyst and adding the transfers that they have and, all that that's coming back, I think that they'll be pretty solid.
If they get Mathis, who's going to commit sometime here pretty soon, and he's being recruited by a lot of others, obviously, but if they can get him, that's just another big piece, another all-conference, all-American type player.
If I'm O'Shawn Mathis, I just got out of Gary Patterson prison. I want to go spread my wings and fly, living somewhere that's not crazy town. Anyway, number 3, will Baylor have to jump? I mean, they're going to. Will Baylor have to hit the portal for a wide receiver? They're going to have to. I mean, let's face it. And this is not necessarily an indictment on what they have. They just don't have experience. And they've got to get somebody out there that has experience. This is and they probably will for a cornerback too, that can bring a little more experience. That position, I just have more faith in them to be able to kind of put it together than I do at wide receiver right now, because at least at quarterback, they've got guys who have played a little. At wide receiver, they don't have guys who have played at all.
Yeah.
I don't know how you had the receiving core you did last year and you felt you needed to bring in Drew Estrada, and you have the receiving core you have this year and you don't feel like you need to bring in anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, I feel like they're going to have to hit the portal for at least one guy. Maybe they've already given Jalen Robinson a call. I don't know. Maybe they're not interested. I don't know. But there's going to have to be some kind of addition just for simply depth purposes, because, if you can't make it through spring ball without half of your young guys being sidelined, what's going to happen in the season?
Yeah.
If all these guys,
some of the older guys who have missed time before and are missing time yet again.
Yeah, like Gavin Holmes. He's back and he looks healthy and everything, but we know that story. Like, he hasn't been healthy pretty much his entire career, and that's one of your more proven veterans, and he's not even that proven. He could be great, but he's got to stay healthy. So, yeah, I don't see how they avoid going and grabbing at least one player at that position.
Yeah. Number 2, can Oklahoma State keep it up on D without Jim Knowles? How much of a difference does he make? I mean, what do they – look, Mike Gundy very clearly made the choice to change this overall kind of philosophy because of what the roster was skewing to and what was better, but can they keep that up? We know
Mason's pretty good.
Derek Mason's a damn good hire, for a DC. So
that was about as good as they could expect.
Yeah, for Evan to replace Jim Knowles, to go out and get Derek Mason, I think you couldn't have done much better than that, and I think he'll be great there, and I wouldn't expect too much drop-off. Any drop-off would be just naturally because you lose players.
Yeah.
But
Malcolm Rodriguez is gone.
Yeah, you lose
the tackling
him,
machine.
Yeah, and others as well that were mainstays. So, but outside of that, as far as the coaching aspect of it goes, no, I'd expect them to still be pretty dang good.
I think they also set the tone. Those players know the tone. It's kind of like Baylor, of course. A lot of their coaching staff, all of them defensively, they lost one safety coach to Oregon, but for the most part, I think that they've set the tone, the standard. I think they'll be really good on defense again.
Yeah. And number 1, will there be another surprise team competing for the title? If you had said that the Big 12 championship game last year was going to be Baylor and Oklahoma State, I think most people have been like, no, not a chance. Now this, West Virginia with JT Daniels, can he make them that much better? I think they've maybe been rated a little bit more by the transfer portal. But look, Kansas State, Chris Kleiman's been there a few years now. Adrian Martinez has something to prove. That could be a team that jumps up because they're going to be very fundamental, and I don't think they're going to lose a lot of sloppy games, so they might be able to capitalize on somebody being down. But I don't know. That the Big 12 is kind of new now with Oklahoma not being in it last year and on their way out the door, and the changes there. Like the Big 12 in the future with the new teams is probably going to be one of the more wide open leagues, especially early on.
Big 12 could use a couple of teams rising to the occasion. making it even deeper. It's already pretty tough.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect K-State to be better. Adrian Martinez has got to limit the boneheaded turnover mistakes that he can be guilty of sometimes. He's got to stay healthy as well. But I do think K-State's a team that could show a good bit of improvement. I think West Virginia naturally will show some improvement offensively with the change at OC, and also now with JT Daniels coming in. I mean, you went from just kind of struggling week in and week out with Jarrett Dagey there to I think you're going to see more of an up-tempo, high-flying style of offense that's actually able to put up some points with Daniels and Harrell as a combination there. So, will there be? I would assume so. I mean, typically every year there is, and those two logos right there would be two of the prime candidates, I feel like, to be one of those.
Jalen Bridges, Treston